looking at the projected AP top 25. So Georgia going to stay at 1, no question there. Michigan going to move up to number 2 after the win against Ohio State. Expecting Washington to move up into the number 3 spot, Florida State to move into the number 4 spot, and then Ohio State with its 1 loss, but that coming at Michigan to probably be the top one loss team in the rankings, probably at number 5. A little bit further down, a big drop expected for Louisville. I've got them from number 9 to number 13. It's their second loss of the season and their second loss to an unranked team. A little bit further down in the rankings, Kansas State. We didn't even talk about that Snow Bowl that they had right there in Bill Snyder Stadium. But Kansas State loses to Iowa State. I'm projecting them to fall out, opening the path for NC State, which was ranked in the CFP rankings, but not in the AP rankings. I think that they'll jump in. Other than that, it's mostly a lot of shuffling. Any top 25 movement that you're expecting or results you want to highlight here as we're projecting the new AP top 25 for the next 6.5 minutes or so?
Is it time we put Iowa in the top 10? Minutes.
No.
Damn. All right. Well, I tried.
Can we move NC State over Tennessee?
Yeah, I do. That's what I've got.
Like Tennessee needs to drop out. Come on.
Here's the thing. So you
win today.
These are your options. According to last week, looking at the voting points, Utah closer than expected win against Colorado that didn't have Shedeur Sanders. Nothing going to happen there, even though Utah also
4th string walk on. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, I was going to say, even though they've got a JUCO quarterback. So, yeah, you and I are on the same page there. Like, the fact that they won is impressive given the context. AP voters, they're not going to know that context. NC State, I've got them moving in. UNLV fumbled the bag. All right? You just needed to beat San Jose
They're in the title
State.
game. That's all Tom cares about.
Is it computer rankings? They've gone beep, beep, boop, pop, beep, pop, and they've spit out what?
They haven't given it out yet. It's just UNLV is in both options.
Honestly, Colorado probably should have won this game if they had like an ounce of discipline. They had like 90 yards in personal fouls.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This one has not crossed my radar yet, so I haven't gotten hands on it.
Yeah. I was interested in the under here, and I was like, Colorado, can you please stop committing personal fouls on defense and keep these Utah drives alive? Like, holy cow!
It's time for sicko mode. Let's go.
But listen, the card of games I cared about was like locked and loaded, and yes, like Utah, Colorado's on it, but man, I wasn't taking a priority spot. So good for you, as I've said here often.
Do you think there's a chance, like, because they were what, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 30. They were 31st technically in last week's AP poll, but they finished 24th in the college football rankings. Do you think there's a chance that because of that, Clemson sneaks in? Because we've seen this where teams that suddenly get to the back end of the CFP rankings, like you just mentioned with NC State, suddenly start showing up on AP ballots the very next week.
I just don't see. So James Madison won, Toledo won, Liberty won, like all these teams with insane win totals didn't lose. So I'm just not sure that they're going to be falling out to open up the path. I do think.
Yeah, but G5 teams typically aren't sticky. Like,
I mean, dude,
they get thrown on there when like somebody's like, I don't know who else to put on here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you can get to 25 before you pick up Clemson.
I don't know.
All right. All right. I think we're getting Oregon probably stays at 6.
Yes.
Texas at 7. Alabama at 8.
Yes.
Some shuffling from there.
Mizzou moves to 9.
Yep.
I'm going to say Ole Miss jumps Penn State to 10.
Possible.
Mm-hmm.
How about 5 double-digit win seasons in the last 8 years for James Franklin?
Stinks.
All right. I mean, Penn State dominated a Michigan State team that is probably as good or better than that Mississippi State team.
Mm-hmm.
Ole
But-
Miss struggled with that team for a good
No,
part of the
Egg
game.
Bowl doesn't count.
Egg Bowl doesn't count. But are you just throwing the land grant trophy out? Come on, that is one of the most coveted trophies in sport, not just college football.
As a CBS employee, I'm a respecter of the land grant trophy. I love the land grant trophy and think it's awesome. It's also really big, which is great.
I think Ole Miss might jump Penn State for a few reasons. A lot of casual voters have probably only seen Penn State twice this year, and we both know how those games went for Penn State. B, Ole Miss was playing in a spotlight on Thursday night where it won its game, whereas Penn State was playing on Friday night at the same time as Oregon State, and it was a blowout. So I don't know how many people were really tuning into that. So all those factors plus like the SEC logo, I think could lead to Ole Miss jumping Penn State.
We'll see. What about Michigan had this tremendous win, packed with emotion, packed with value. You know, your strength of schedule is going to improve. Your resume is going to improve. I think that some first place votes will drift towards Michigan that weren't there, and it won't just be Ohio State's. I am projecting Georgia to still have a healthy advantage in terms of that 1-2 battle. What, if any, were the big takeaways from Georgia's win against Georgia Tech?
Georgia's getting ready for the SEC championship, Chip. That was my primary takeaway from that game. Just watching it, there was nothing interesting that they were doing. It was all like 3 base plays.
Same.
Yeah, same. I mean, I'm not putting Michigan over Georgia right now. Like I need to see more passing game out of Michigan, not to the tight ends, for me to believe they can actually beat Georgia. So I'm keeping Georgia.
All right. What about for Washington? Jumped ahead of Florida State last week. Washington 24-21. Bud, you mentioned the comparison when we were discussing Florida State and Florida in the previous segment, but you tabbed the Cougars as a live dog, as a team that you should keep your eye on. It damn near happened. What's is it again just like the thumbs up? You survived, you win. It's like, do you apply the same Florida State grading scale to Washington, or was there something that happened here that's got your antenna tuned up?
No, I think you have to apply the same grading scale, right? But what I would say is Washington has not looked good or right, I think is the proper term. In how many weeks? 5?
Well, one thing, so Dylan Johnson's foot isn't good. Like, Dylan Johnson's emergence in the run game has been really big to provide some balance there. And they were talking a lot about that. He still had a good game, but not always as spry between snaps. And I understand that pretty much everybody is at this time of year. You get a little knock and you're playing for a national championship contender. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to play through it. You're going to figure out a way to get out there and try to give your best for the team. Looked like Johnson was doing it. Looked like Johnson was able to do it, but things were shaky for sure.
Is Penix okay? I don't know, man. I'm just.
That was weird at the end of the game.
They threw the big hood on him and carried him off.
I understand the not wanting to watch the field goal thing, but it was I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out what was going on there. Just was he the adrenaline having some sort of whatever on him, just emotionally or whatever? I don't know, but it was bro, you won. I mean, you should be happy. I know you had a couple close calls there that maybe you were just kind of thinking about. You're like, oh God, I nearly lost us the game, but you won. You beat your rival. Go into the title game undefeated. Be happy.
Yeah. Leon in the Cover 3 tailgate says, does Penix have the flu? I thought they already had the flu.
How many times is this kid going to get the flu?
Don't you get 90 days of pretty solid immunity?
Maybe he has shot. If Penix has kids, I totally get him getting the flu multiple times.
I mean, he is 33. He's probably got at least 2 of them.
Oklahoma State clinched a spot in the Big 12 title game, overcoming a 24-6 deficit at home against BYU, a BYU team that I thought had poured it all out, trying to knock off the Sooners in Provo last week, but still had a lot to say early in the game. Good on Oklahoma State for hanging in there, but it was a battle against the Cougars.
I don't appreciate it.
I need something from you. When you win a bet on Twitter for your Tom's Twitter tip of the day, what do you usually say?
There was never a doubt.
That's right. There was never a doubt.
Oh, because you guys have the Oak State.
Yes,
Chip, I'm going to be. I'm going to be
do.
a hedging mofo this week. I got Oak State and UNLV playing in title games. I'm going to be those are going to be my two locks. It's going to be whoever UNLV is playing money line and the Texas money line. Those are my locks this week.
I also have Louisville 18 and 15. Ooh.
Let's go.
I mean, look, one team outgained its opponent by a ton today and won, despite some craziness, and that was Oak State. Another team outgained its opponent and lost, Louisville. Like, Oak State's not that bad of a team. We've seen 2 weeks in a row them fall behind, not panic. They stick to their game plan. They chip back. Now, look, you could tell me that BYU and Houston are not good teams, and that is concerning to me a little bit, a lot of it actually, that they're falling behind in these games. But, like, you put up 500 yards, you scored a bunch of points, you had an easy schedule to get there, and you took care of it. And you beat Oklahoma, which was like the one real stumbling block we thought you might have. Like, congrats to Oak State. That's awesome.
What went wrong for Louisville?
Giving up that kick return. Kind of
-3 in turnovers and a kick return. Yeah. They only allowed like 200-something yards.
Right. Because I was going to say the scoreboard says that this Louisville defense that we had propped up all through the season was horrendous. That wasn't the way the game went at all. Like it was an offensive problem. I mean, they scored 31 points. I didn't think they were good enough offensively to be able to win this game.
I agree. Like they did not look great. You can't call this like a look ahead letdown type situation because it's, even if it is, like you can't excuse that. It's a rivalry game. You got to get up for it, right? Like there are going to be times where you have to get up for 3 games in a row, and this is one of them. So, but still, like that was, it looked a little bit like their Pitt game, right? They moved the ball, they turned it over. The magnitude of the turnovers are freaking disastrous, and then they have a special teams error.
This goes to what I've been saying about Louisville all year, and it ticks fan bases off when you say it. But this is when I criticize Louisville and say I don't think it's a great team, it doesn't mean I think it's a bad team. It means that I think it's a team capable of losing these games. Like it lost the Pitt game, like it lost this game. It's a good team. It is not a perfect team. It has flaws. And if they run into a team that could expose those flaws, or they just have a couple plays that don't go their way, stuff like this is what happens. And that's kind of just it. They had a couple turnovers. They had 3 turnovers. They had the kick return. They just bad moments that ended up costing them in the end because, Kentucky had 289 yards of offense. Donovan Leary was 12 of 22 for 206 yards, although he did throw for 3 touchdowns. Like, you just can't overcome those mistakes unless you're an elite team, and Louisville's not an elite team.
Yeah, the bet on Louisville was a good enough schedule is manageable.
Mm-hmm.
And they've cashed on that. They have taken advantage of a good schedule. They will have a chance to play for the ACC championship.
Yeah. No matter what happens next week, this was a very successful season for the Louisville Cardinals.
Yes.
And next year you play all the hard teams. So Let's
Isn't that a
go.
little different though, because you had Stanford, Cal, and SMU join the league. I think it actually got mixed up a little bit. Like it's not quite the death march we thought it would be.
Agree. Well, I don't know. Looking at Cal,
it was going to be. Like,
looking at Cal, just
beating up on UCLA right now.
Trying to add an emergency podcast to Sunday's.
Garber's got knocked out of the game on the first drive or second drive.
Yep.
Like hurt his shoulder pretty bad. It looked like that sucks for him.
All right.
20-7. They're toast. All right.
And which also means that my shot at going at 7-5 on win totals is now toast, as I had the Cal under. So if they get to 6 wins, that means it's a classic chip 6-6, baby. We're just pushing it around.
Pushing the money around.
Pushing the money around. Tip the dealer. Man, it was a good season, y'all. See y'all next year.